Welcome back to Seablock, and I've been doing a little bit of optimization between the episodes. I've moved out a whole sort of factory building from down here. I do need to stop this. In fact, is there any use to this right now? No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. If I'm not using it, it will be used to make grass, basically. I've moved this building out here. It was producing wood. The wood was going down into here, so that building is basically now off. I'm doing that because I'm just considering whether it's better to use it up here, and you'll see where it is in a second. We should put in a little bit more light, sort of around here somewhere. Yep, that's fine. Yeah, so I've moved this building here, reconnected everything. This is just a water fill technique so I don't need to pipes everywhere. You put a block of 6, 2x3, put the pump in, then you can refill most of that block of 6 with sand, and it will just output water without just huge pipes everywhere. And I've done that across the entire factory area. The only one sort of left is this viscous mud water, which has got a huge pump on the end of it, so you can't really fit it easily in the block of 6 like that and then refill stuff. So we've got wood coming out of here, and mud is going in from this source, which is previously was producing grass over here for me, but I'm perfectly happy. I've already got a source of that from other places, and I don't need you. Oh, hang on, do I? That's just going to be more. It's going to be more mud, isn't it? I need to go that way. Hopefully, yes, they both have mud as output. They're blocked on other things, but right now, yeah, they can eventually output mud. Anyway, mud goes in, wood comes out, and then it goes down here into our sort of preliminary circuit stuff. There used to be a row of assembly machines here for paper. I've removed those because, hey, we don't need them to make wooden boards anymore because I completed the research, which is why I did this whole thing. Wooden board research gets you the new recipe for wooden board, I should say, straight from wood. So we can remove the paper angle, and we still have over here these two different algae sort of things coming in. I've just removed the recipes for now, just make it a little bit simpler because we may be able to do something with those. So we need to get two things. We need to get fiber over here. We need to get, is that alginic acid? So fiber, okay, fiber can be made a bunch of different ways. Straight from wood, which is what we're probably now going to use. And that seems to be good. We can make handcrafted, of course, and from green algae. So we were using the green algae, but now instead of 10 to 5 green algae, we can use 2 to 4 from wood. And we don't use solder that often anyway. Then we've also got the other ingredient, which is alginic acid. So let's just see, is there any alternative to that alginic, or is that just straight from, is that only from, it's only from brown algae. So what we can probably do is get rid of this one, okay, and you can just basically give up. I'll pick up all the green algae. Oh, I don't want to pick up the brown algae as well, but I'll pick up all the green algae, and then what I'll do is extend this wood line across, and we'll see if we can get everything else being fed in, you know, sort of correctly. That's going to take a while to go across, isn't it? I'm just going to get rid of this line, and this has to be set up again as acid. There's nothing I can do to get out of that, unfortunately. And that can go that way, and then this one can just be extended. Now, for the most part, I'm going to be using the yellow tier of belt from now onwards, but in this case, I am fine to do that. So what was the fiber recipe? There we go. So that should be set up and should work equivalently. I'm just going to, I don't know, hide that sort of entrance there, even though it's the wrong tier of underground belt. So makes it a little bit nicer. So we've saved a little bit of stuff here. We no longer need some water inputs because we've got saline coming in the other direction. That can all go away quite nicely, and hopefully I can just get rid of that from the outside as well. Yeah, well, that is a local spot, so we can get rid of that and then just use, you know, just some of this to make sure it's actually covered. And yeah, job's a good one. So that's that done, and I'll obviously move this more into a regular grid and maybe even output wood the other direction. I think I want to output it that way. In fact, why don't we do that now? It's going to be straightforward to actually do, so let's just do it that way. And 42 of this left, that's fine. Okay, and we'll just go straight. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but hey, nice to have straight belts whenever you can afford to. There we go. So outside, I can then pick up all of this, and it's going to be coming out of this slot here. So we're just going to straight across. And eventually that, of course, is going to be... That's going to be... should be coming out now. Yep. that's going to be right next to this. So it'll just go straight in. But I will need to move all of this inside a building, maybe, in the meantime. That might be worth doing. And of course, we then need to feed out mud. So mud would be ideal to come out of the bottom of that building into the top of this one. And maybe we can set it up like that. Is there any other inputs to this whole thing? It's all coming from these two pumps. One of those can be local. That's not a problem. It's the other one. Yeah, and all of this, it needs a fair amount of stuff to actually get going. I'm going to see if it'll all fit. Hopefully it will. I should note, please don't ever put water fill underneath your own feet. Kills you instantly. I did not know that. Just a thought for you guys who are maybe wanting to, to do that. Oh, give me everything. There we go. Okay. Water fill, yes, not under your own feet. Thank you very much. Yes, it does. All of this gone. Nicely held indoors now. All that can go away. And yes, this path needs to be optimized quite a fair bit, but I'll wait until I've done a couple more things before I do that. It's going to go into this top factory because what I'm going to have in here is some kind of rejection for mud. If mud is basically all used, or at least it's backed up, I should say, this is going to happen here, which means we should be able to just reject that and turn it. Where's my splitters? There we go. We just turn it if it's sort of if it's back at this point. We know we can just use the extra mud. And if we bring in the extra mud sort of in here, there it comes, we'll just merge that with this other line so that everything comes into one place. Do I want to merge it earlier? Probably do, actually. These two lines are going to come together. No, I'm just going to leave it like this. This is fine. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to merge this line in here. Yeah, it should end up being pretty much the same anyway, because it's going to start flowing through, and that just means I can make it look a little bit nicer here, which is always good. And then we'll just merge the two with a proper splitter merger, and that's something I don't need that for then. I can just basically replace that down there. And now I can say output priority. I want to keep it to output priority to the right. So if that is empty, it will just feed out to the right. Otherwise, it's going to, I'll continue on this line right here, which we'll then be able to use as we've done before, just to make grass, and just basically send that outside. So that can just go in there, put some grass recipe. Yep, copy paste. And we just feed that out as you would normally. So let's just put that into, I don't want to come in here to do this. So let's send it outside. And it can just be boxed. Where do I have a box of some kind? I do. Let's just put an inserter there. Let's put the box on the other side so that the inserter can be already powered. There it goes. So that should start bringing grass for us. And this means I can save a whole bunch of belt out here. I've got a couple of basically cans worth of clay bricks that I can move inside, which I can just easily. And that does mean my clay bricks are inside. Slightly more inconvenient, but at the same time, I don't really need them that often. So I'm not too concerned about that. I can always put them back outside if I want them. And same thing there. Let's just pick that up and go and dump them in there. So that's that job sorted. So we had a lot more stuff done. I'll just pick up 1,000 of them just to carry around. And everything is, and I'll just give you a better look at that, just to give you an idea of what everything's going on. Same setup as outside. I've just basically collapsed the space a little bit more. The output from this one is going down into this line, and then the output between these two is going down into this third line. This one is then going to be brought in here. This isn't fully automatic right now, and I don't need it to be because I don't need that many bricks. Mainly that these two furnaces and this blast furnaces don't have fuel. Easy enough to bring in fuel. You know, we can always pull the fuel from like something coming in from this side. I just don't need enough of it. So to be fair, any wood that's going to come through here, if it does back up, it's going to get turned into grass. So there's no big deal there. I can just remove those. So that just means a simple connection between the two buildings. That means all the requirements for wood is now done. So I'm going to just adjust this path. It's annoying me enough. I'm just going to fix it. Next task, remove more electrolyzers. They are pretty much still using stuff. I can't really... This is the only downside to this thing, is I can see buildings that are actually using and consuming electricity, but because everything's inside buildings, yeah, I have to go maybe survey them. It'd be nice if you can have some kind of overlay of the power usage of each building. You can, but you have to go inside and then take a look at it. So here you can see this is 1.3 megawatts. And if we have a look at our total usage, it's what, like 14. So that's about a tenth of the whole factories going in here. Of course, there are now 5 electrolyzers, and this is actually supplying this chemical plant, and it's sort of not even keeping up, even with these 5 electrolyzers. We have, this is basically supplying our sulfuric acid line. That sulfuric acid line is really important because it's what's converted into our mineral sludge, essentially. It needs the sulfuric acid to basically make the crystal slurry, I believe. So we need to just basically think about replacing the oxygen, which is the red line, if you want to think it that way. However, we're splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. The only thing we're using the hydrogen for in here, let's get rid of that for a second. The only thing we're using the hydrogen for in here is this one machine. So I don't mind still supplying that with the electrolyzers, unless there's a better way of getting hydrogen. I doubt it. There's 14 different ways of getting hydrogen. Yes, some's coming off that existing stuff that we got for the alumina, I suppose. So we could feed it from there. But we'll have a look at that in a little while. I'll leave 1 electrolyzer or 2 electrolyzers going, but I want to replace the rest. So let's look at the research we've just done, which is nitrogen processing. This has this air filter, and the air filter basically lets us build, as you might imagine, something that outputs air, compressed air in this case. Okay, so air filter. Can I actually already... I should be able to build that now. So filter, air filter. Well, I just build... Well, I can just really build 1, it seems. So I need some more iron. Let's just go and grab some more of that from a box somewhere. It's going to be all the way up there. And yeah, there's be plenty of iron to grab. So the air filter probably can go in here. I assume there's nice fresh air coming in here. And let's put that down. So there's our air filter. Ooh, that's quite large. Okay. So I'm going to put it over here. Ish. For now. And that just needs a recipe and starts producing air. From the air, we should be able to then split it into its components, which obviously is nitrogen and oxygen. Carbon dioxide, it doesn't really produce enough, and the recipe is simple. Okay, so compressed air, if we look at what that can actually produce, nitrogen and oxygen, it doesn't give you the other components of air, of course, so that's fine. And that just needs to be put through a chemical plant. So crafting speed 2 for those. 1.5, 1.75. So again, Angel's petrochemical processing is the easiest ones we've got for the moment. And I've already got some of that, so we can basically feed that straight in. And I want to choose nitrogen and oxygen. So it's looking for like red and blue. There it is. Okay, nitrogen we don't need. Well, we're just going to flare stack that. At least for the moment, we don't need it. But the oxygen, we can just feed straight away from here, straight there. Now, I don't know what the rate of the oxygen is going to be, but what I'm going to do is just cut off this other line, and let's see if it can actually keep up. Oh, yes, it can. Okay, so if that's keeping up, then all of this can go away. Much nicer. We are going to need to have some of it going, but let's just take out these 3 electrolyzers. Okay, and let's see how much power this is. This is like half power of 1 electrolyzer. And this is about an electrolyzer. So we've gone from 3 to about 1.5 in terms of power. And that is still not quite keeping up. Is it, what is it actually? Yes, compressed air. So we're just going to need more of these. Fine. We can do that. And these are the cheap ones. And this will take it to the equivalent of 2 electrolyzers instead of 3. So a little bit of a power saving, and of course I can make things locally. Now, not just here, but that also means I don't need to run pipes everywhere for other things. So if I just remove this pipe work here, we don't need it anymore. And we don't need any view anymore, so you can all go away. This is just much simplifying the whole setup, which I do like. This is hydrogen, that's the overflow valve basically for this. And this is perfectly happy as it is. It might even be happy with just 1, so why don't I just remove that and let's see how it copes. If we ever get a shortage, then cool, we can get rid of another one. But that means we're basically taking out 2 electrolyzers, which means I can afford another 2 electrolyzers somewhere else instead of this, assuming that this is able to keep up once I put a new air filter in. So air filter number 2, will 2 fit in side by side here? They will not. So what I'm going to do is just put them further down. Yeah, put you there. Pick up this one. Put you down alongside. I'll connect you with a basically pipe. Okay, and we can even move these, I suppose, but it doesn't much matter at this point. We just have to choose the recipe, and hopefully these will keep up with this this requirement. So that will be okay to leave on its own. And then, in fact, it should have gone. Yeah, it's already going. And we'll see how well that keeps up. I'll keep an eye on it. However, we've got this long pipe up here, which is just feeding oxygen. So we know we can replace that, right? As long as we have a chemical plant and an air filter. So it goes all the way over here. It goes into the lead and only the lead. And there's a little bit of space in here, I think, and it hardly ever gets used. So can we actually fit this with another air filter? Is there enough space in here? Filter. One air filter, and we already have a chemical plant, of course. So we need a flare stack to get rid of the nitrogen. But everything else, let's see if we can fit it. And that should fit rather nicely by just putting this right in the center of our factory and then this all going through as we would have done before. I'm not too concerned about actually optimizing the ratios there because this thing is hardly ever needed. You can see here we just don't need that much lead right now. We'll balance it later when we do. That means all of this pipe work, which I don't like, sort of skipping buildings like this, can probably go away. We are going to have to deal with steel, of course, so why don't we just think about that for a minute. I'm going to remove all the pipe width this way. Yeah, making it much cleaner. Still got that one going that way, but other than that, that's fine. And we can probably even export the hydrogen, or even make it, the oxygen, or even make it locally again. For the moment, do we actually have room to export this? We do. Yeah, so I could just export it the other way temporarily. That'll do. Okay, and then we'll just feed it back where it came from. So that's going to be there. Cool. So that's going to get oxygen as before. Yeah, it's building up. What I probably want to think about doing, though, is having an overflow valve or something that's only got exports if it's full, or at least it's 80% full. For the moment, that's not going to be much of a problem. It's just going to stop, and I don't have to care about it. So that's fine. We've got a couple of hundred steel in there, fine enough to be getting on with, and everything looks a little bit simpler now without that pipe in the way. And, of course, let's just take a look in here. Are you keeping up? Right, let's take a look here. How are you outputting? Yep, you're not empty. So as long as that's not empty, that's my main concern. And then I worked on this factory a little bit more because I wanted everything to back stuff. I wanted to be able to have full sulfuric acid at whatever rate I'm actually consuming it. So I added all these air filters, a couple of chemical plants here, and they are then flare stacking the output. There's a couple of things then producing our sulfur dioxide that's going into the sulfuric acid. And away we go, hopefully. Okay. So hopefully that's going to satisfy us for the short term. If we have a look at how much the output, it's pretty much full in the pipe. So that will then suitably be used for the rest of our crystal slurry, hopefully. Let's see whether at this side we're actually using it all. It's a good sign if all of these geodes are being used. You'll see some of them it's getting paused a little bit. So let's just see. Is that because the output's getting paused? Yes, it is. Look at this bottom line. It's not working. It's because what we're probably going to find over here is sulfuric acid is not being supplied or wasn't being supplied. How about now? What are you? You're stuck on crystal slurry. So we are outputting enough now. Good. That means the crystal slurry conversion's at fault. We have to go track back a little bit. Let's go and see where that is now. So crystal slurry is going in here. And needs to be converted, of course. So in we go here. What are we short of in here? We've got filters. That's the usual thing to check for. Crystal slurry is going in. Mineralized water is going in. All of them are working full apart from you. They're blocked on output. Really? I like it when they're blocked on output here. It means I can turn on more machines. I can get more more minerals, more output, and that's no problem. So, yeah, there's the pipe. There's a pipe still providing stuff, even providing that stuff all the way down to Givlite. So I can turn on. In fact, no, that's blocked as well. Why are you all blocked? Blocked on output, Givlite output. What are we not feeding in here? Purified water from somewhere. Oh, have I disconnected water? I have. Yeah, there was a water line that was coming all the way from over here. There's no water line anymore. Let's try not to kill ourselves. Let's just bring down the size of the tool here, and let's just get rid of you for a second. I need to get rid of that power pole, at least temporarily. There we go, and get my pump back. And then we'll just fill that hole back in, and the power pole can go back down. There we go. Okay, so that should be water, which should mean this should now kick on. And all of you should start consuming again, which is exactly what we want. And let's just check in here. We don't have any other output. We can just feed basically more machines here and get more tin out on the top. And rather happily, I like it when this happens. You can see these belts are starting to pile back with metal. And that's really good. It means I can start considering using them for other things other than the stuff that we've been using for. Yes, right now I'm not researching anything, so it will pile back a little bit, but let's just start it researching anyway so that it's got something to actually do. Advanced copper smelting 2. That's processed copper and oxygen. So maybe we should do that. Probably want iron more than anything else. So advanced iron smelting 2. Let's just take that research and get that started. So that's going to kick in and start consuming red and green science. Fine. So what I think I should probably do is make a mall at this point. Mall, if you're not aware, is basically an area that you output goods to, output metals to, and you get all the common stuff that you need rather than handcrafting them. So things like transport belt are ideal. Yellow transport belt in particular, we need tin, we need basic transport belt, and we need iron gear wheels. So basic transport belt is also iron gear wheels, so we just basically need iron gear wheels and tin, which means just iron and tin, essentially. And you'll see right here, I have a splitter here. It isn't prioritized, it's equal splitting at the moment, but it splits out to this chest, which I'm using. But what we could do is take out some from that and some from this tin and start making stuff. So I'm going to rearrange these belts a little bit and figure out where we would be best placed to put this kind of stuff. Almost tempted to run the tin outward from here and that way and to join everything else. I want to resist, and this is probably a good thing to do with Angels and Bobs, any Angels and Bobs site like Seablock. Don't try and create a main bus. It will cause you all kinds of problems later if you do, but it's just nice to have them relatively close to each other for this kind of stuff for the moment. I say for the moment, okay? So I'm going to reroute the belts a little bit, and we'll see where we go from there. Okay, and that's fine for the moment. We've got the tin coming past somewhere where I can easily grab it. And it is still being dumped, or half of it is being dumped into this box. So I can always grab bare tin if I need it. Now, I'm not going to be putting this thing into a factory building. Why? Because I can't easily grab the stuff then. Yes, I know I can't put things into the factory buildings all the time, so what we're just going to do is create a few sort of assembly machines outside and see what that actually goes to. So what do we need? So we're going to need iron gears no matter what we do, so that's going to have to be produced first of all. And to do that, what I'm going to do is just split things off a little bit earlier on this line. Let's just think, do I want to split them off here? Yeah, I'm going to split them off a little bit earlier, split them off there. And then we'll feed that out. And we're going to immediately just grab some of that. And I'm going to go straight into an assembly machine. Oops, not there, there. And that's going to make gear wheels. Rather nicely. And it's going to feed them onto a belt on the other side. The gear wheels tend to be quite quick at being made. So that's just one shot. Never mind, there's our advanced iron smelting. And then we'll just have a belt there. So you can imagine we have a belt at the top. I'm still using the slow belt on purpose. I don't need any kind of speed on this kind of front to do this. And then we're going to be able to put some more assembly machines in place. So let's just take a look what they do here. If we want belt, we are going to need iron gear wheels and iron plate. of which we have both of them here. So we can put more there, you see. We get them on both sides. Oops, that's not the right belt. That's the right belt. And then we will feed them in. Okay. And then I think we can just be able to do direct insert to the next one in the chain. Okay, this is very much like vanilla stuff where you do it with... is it with belt that you do this for? Or is it, I think it's with inserters you do this for. Direct insertion like this. So if we just choose the next belt up here, we can basically choose that. It's going to need more of the stuff from up here. Okay. Like that. And like that. That should be 2 of the ingredients being provided. Or at least it will once this thing has iron plate. Let me just dump in some iron plate manually. Let's grab some from over here. Fill my inventory and just dump some in. So let's just get manual plates. Manual plate there, and that should be good. Okay, so the only thing this final thing needs is basically tin. So we need to bring that in. So let's just split that off from this other line down there. We'll split it off around here. That should do the job. We need to go underground there, or in fact, let's just split it off one further back. Then this will look a little bit nicer. Put it there, and then we'll just go underground. Let's just move this, but that's not a problem. I don't like it connecting like that. I will put some more power poles at the top. Ugh, still don't like it connecting like that. That'll do. Looks nicer. And do I want it like that? That's going to be a bit annoying. This is what's a little bit too close for that. I don't know. We're just going to go underground anyway. So let's just bring this underground here. Okay, and then we will just bring this one shorter. Or indeed, make it look a little bit nicer. Let's just go underground on the copper as well. It's more expensive, but hey, things look nicer when you do it this way. At least in my opinion. And there we go. So that's going to go in there, and it's going to start producing our belt. It's got all the ingredients, and we can later probably improve that. Let's take a look at what the other things need. So we always need underground belts. So that needs iron gear wheels, and it needs a basic underground belt itself, and tin plates. So it's the same kind of process. And then splitters, that needs basic circuit board. So that's a little bit different, but other than that, it's still the same thing. Iron gear wheels, tin. So both of these lines are needed, as well as the precursors. Okay, so we're probably going to need to think about how we put this into boxes. I think just because of the way we've got things configured, I can put an output like this. Okay, I'm going to pick up from that way. And there it's going to output the boxes there. Can we actually, I wonder, if I get a couple more like this? We wouldn't have direct insertion, that's the only problem. So yeah, maybe we route the tin sort of around and we end up with like a stack of stuff going up like this, because we still need the iron gear wheels whatever we do. So let me just put it I don't know, let's say here for now, and you can imagine we want the tin going that way. So we want this to be underground belt. What about simple? That needs stone. Okay, what about this one? That needs copper cable. This is going to be a bit more complicated than a traditional vanilla one. Let me have a quick think. And there we go. I've created an independent line, another split off of iron. That's going to feed from the same line of gear wheels, basically, which once we have enough iron coming through should get populated. And then that's feeding into an independent line, which is coming across here. I've got a manual box here of stone, just because I don't have another source of crushed stone nearby, and that's what it actually needs to get stone. But I can ladle it in. It's not that it will use huge amounts by comparison to everything else. So yeah, everything there should be powered and running. This thing is just waiting for gear wheels, and of course gear wheels is just dependent on iron, so there's nothing really excessive there. I can just dump some in to demonstrate it run, and that's okay for that. So lastly, we need the splitters, and that needs basic circuit boards. Now basic circuit boards, again, I do not have a source for that close. There is one here, but it's a bit awkward to actually get it over here to get that. So let's just take a look at the simple one. The simple one is copper cable as well, but that is, well, to be honest, each of these are getting fairly close, I would guess. We're going to need another iron gear line, I think. Let's just get that going from here, perhaps? Question mark? Maybe there? Gear wheels? Yep. Like that. And that can go onto a belt up here. We are running out of a little bit of land. Yep, we're hitting the top extent of all the land here, but other than that, we can probably think about doing the same thing as down here. So let's take a look at that. So splitters, we are going to need gear wheels, basic transport belt. So we need to do a basic transport belt first, just like all these other ones. Rather than sharing a belt with basic transport belt, I'm just making it and then direct inserting. So that can just go in here. In fact, even with this, we can just direct insert if we wanted to, like that. That would work as well, but I'm just going to put them onto a belt just in case they're needed later in the recipe. And we'll put that there. This is going to be basic belt. And then a last one here for at least the low quality splitters is going to be here. So that's going to need the iron gear wheels. It's going to need the basic transport belt. It's going to need copper cable as well. Copper cable we should be able to make with this electronics assembly machine, not anything else. And what I may well think about is having it something like that. So we can still direct insert copper cable. There we go. And we can just feed it off somewhere. Maybe off... do we have a splitter? Yeah, I do. Maybe off there. I want to be careful just in case it needs tin. Is the next step going to need tin? It does. So if I do this like that, I need to be a bit careful. So instead of just feeding it one block away like that, I'm going to put it 2 blocks away. So that's exactly the right position for this. And it's going to go up here, and then we're going to just basically pick up from one further away. Okay, get that down. And yes, it's feeding unevenly there, so let's just make sure it's extending 2 in both directions. And that's going to work. This is going to work, and then everything else can be hooked up together. So you can go in here. Okay. That needs direct insertion from here. Good. And now you should have everything you need, I think. This needs iron plate. Okay, iron plate going in. This should now have all the ingredients to make the splitters, which means the next splitter is going to need the previous ones, basic circuit boards, iron gear wheels, and tin plate. That's not too bad because we can bring the tin plate in from here. If I just move it to there, and then I can just extend this belt out this way. Okay, we can just feed it past and pull tin off it, and that will be quite useful for the moment. Yes, so one more assembly machine. I'm going to need to build one. And then we'll have that produce the final step. So yes, tin I've got covered. Basic splitters I've got covered. Iron gear wheel I've got covered. And that should be that. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. There we go. So tin can go in here. That can go in there. This can go in here with a couple more belt. I should just use the yellow one. It is actually automatically making it for me now, so cool. And let's just get that into there. So yellow splitters, and that just needs basic circuit boards as the last thing, which I can feed in either manually with a box, or in fact I'm probably going to do that because I don't need that many splitters, to be honest. So let's just get a box going in. I don't know, where should we put a box? Let's just put some power down here, and then I'll put a box in on this side. Okay, and pick up from there. Pick up and drop, and then we can just go and grab some of this whenever we want, rather than just using it permanently and running out. So let's just drop half of that into there. And that's that. So that should start feeding in, and we need a box to feed that back out again. So I do need to put one down, maybe like here. And that needs power, of course, but pick up position, drop position, and some power. There it goes. So we've got splitters, we've got underground belt, we've got a regular belt. and that's all now automatically made. It's a bit of a poor mall. We'd like to, well, if I'm going to move it inside a building, and I'm tempted to, the stuff has to come back out. So all this, if it goes into a building, we have to bring all of it back out into nice, neat little boxes that are lined up next to each other. That's sort of something that I want to do. I have built a couple of, well, a few buildings that we can actually do this with. So probably the next episode, I'm going to move them in, just like I've moved some stuff inside in this episode. So I hope you enjoyed that. Give it a thumbs up if you have. If you've got any suggestions based on what you've seen or what should go next, if you're following along, feel free to let other people know. Give them a bit of a, well, not too much of a spoiler, but give them advice on what they're actually doing if you're working ahead of me. And of course, I will hopefully see you next episode for some more Seablock. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to hit the subscribe button and the bell button after that, because that was the only way that YouTube will tell you of new episodes, because of how YouTube works in its rather special place in the online community, that it decides to just remove things from people who may want to be interested. Anyway, rant's over. Let's not go with it. Let's head up with the next episode. As always, guys, thanks for watching.